born in Alexandria, Indiana in 1936. Gloria Sickle was born in Battle Creek, Michigan in 1942. 1962, they get married and start an empire. 1964, so that's how old that song is. 1964, he writes, "He Touched Me." And Elvis Presley includes it on his album of the same name in 1972. So it wasn't just on the album. He entitled the whole album after He Touched Me. And the Gaithers' career skyrockets and takes off like a rocket ship after Elvis releases that song. 1974, Because He Lives, wins the Gospel Music Association Song of the Year Award. We're going to play their version. 1983, Bill Gaither is inducted into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame. 1991, the Gaither Homecoming Tours begin, showcasing gospel and contemporary Christian music. And so the Gaithers aren't on here just simply because of their influence on gospel, but because they kind of gave a stage, if you will, for early contemporary Christian music singers. 1997, Gloria Gaither is inducted into the GMA Hall of Fame. And then, quite astonishingly, in 2000, Bill and Gloria Gaither are named Christian Songwriter of the Century by ASCAP. And what's key about this, this is really a kind of a commercial record sales award. This isn't a, gosh, you're so talented award. This is a, you wrote the songs that sold so much that even awards them Christian Songwriters of the Century, which is really a pretty extraordinary thing. Bill Gaither starts the Bill Gaither Trio in 1950, so he's been going at this for a long, long time. And as Pat mentioned, it originally was comprised of Bill Gaither and his brother and sister, so it was a family affair. He marries Gloria Sickle in 1962, and eventually she takes the place of Bill's sister in the band. And in time, Bill and Gloria have written over 600 songs together. Now, compared to Charles Wesley, compared to Fanny Crosby, that's not a lot. But compared to, well, anybody else in the 20th century writing Christian music, I don't think anybody else is. Known her Because He Lives, we're going to do in a moment. He Touched Me, the Elvis one we just did. And Jesus, There's Something About That Name. And Elvis performed He Touched Me in 1972. My sister-in-law and her husband is some guy I've known since college. And they're actually big Gaither fans. And he took the pictures you're going to see in here. But there's a 2008 photo of Bill and Gloria Gaither at the Gaither Homecoming performances. And that's pretty much what they're doing these days. The Bill Gaither Trio doesn't really exist anymore. They do these Bill Gaither or Gaither homecomings. And a lot of the people who got their start performing with the Gaithers, they'll come back. And so any particular Gaither homecoming performance you go to, you never know who's going to show up. Amy Grant may show up. Michael K. Smith may show up. You never know who's going to show up for any particular. And I asked them, because they've gone to several of these Gaither homecomings, and I asked my sister-in-law and this guy I used to know in college. And I asked them, what's the favored song? Is it still He Touched Me? And they said they thought it was Because He Lives. That was the biggest one, the one that got the biggest crowd response. But they said He Touched Me is still very popular also. But there's Bill and Gloria there. 1991, oh, I actually had a slide on this. I spent hours and hours preparing for each class. So the Gaithers start the Gaither Homecoming Tours, which showcase both gospel and contemporary Christian music. Gloria doesn't really sing much anymore, and I've never really gotten a story of why that is. Did she hurt her vocal cords or whatever? But she's the narrator And sometimes they do these pieces where there's a narration behind it, and she does the narration. Bill still sings bass during these tours with a new group he formed called the Gaither Vocal Band. And so the trio no longer exists. The Gaithers have helped a number of well-known contemporary Christian acts become successful, including Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, and Sandy Patty. And a lot of these acts, they got their start with the Gaithers. Amy Grant toured with the Gaithers in the 1980s. If it hadn't been with the Gaithers, you never would have heard of Amy Grant. If it wasn't for Elvis Presley, you never would have heard of the Gaithers. So it's interesting how these circles are made. That's the Gaither vocal band in 2008, and that's Bill on the left, of course. So he still sings bass, even though he's now up there in years. I guess he's got to be 75, 76 years old, but he still sings with the Gaither. So why are the Gaithers on this list? Is it just because they wrote a couple popular gospel songs? There's probably a couple hundred people in history who have written a couple popular gospel songs, so that's not really why they're on the list. They're on our list because of their significant role in popularizing Southern gospel music in the last part of the 20th century. And really with the Gaither homecomings, they have some black gospel in it also, but the bulk of it is Southern gospel. They've also influenced modern contemporary praise music, which are sung in churches all over the world. They're on the list because ASCAP named them the Christian songwriters of the century. Now we should point out that they weren't competing against Bach or Mendelssohn or people like that, but still, it's a pretty significant achievement. They won the GMA Dove Song of the Year or Album of the Year award 24 times. That's through 2011, which is kind of an amazing thing to have accomplished that.